Hi everyone, welcome to Unapologetically You in our brand new episode. And Kelly and I are both super excited about this because we've got a surprise guest today. We have been talking about burnout in the last few episodes, and a few months ago actually, when the Exhaustion and Burnout podcast aired, we really wanted to kind of bring that topic back on track and invite a coach who has experienced burnout themselves. So today we are going to have a bit more in-depth conversation. We're going to grill our guest and figure out what their experiences are and also support for coaches. Yes, we talk about burnout as a collective, but let's be specific on this podcast is primarily aimed for coaches burnout. So if you're a coach or if you know that you are being coached, it's something to look out for and something to be aware of. And just as a final thought, please do subscribe to the YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And also we are on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to support us on Patreon, we can be found on there. So have a check out on all of the links in the description below. Hi, Cal.
Hey, Tols. How are you going?
I'm good. How are you?
Also good.
Good.
I am.
You're looking fabulous today, by the way. I'm loving the hair.
You love the hair? You know what it comes compliments of? We've been in the midst of Cyclone Seth here.
Oh.
So we have, I know it's probably not as bad as it sounds, the aftermath of Cyclone Seth, which happened out at sea, but we're coastal, so we got the remnants of it, and it has just been raining nonstop. So curly hair doesn't straighten out well, you can try, but it doesn't work, and the humidity's been very, been crazy. But you know what? It worked for my hair, so there you go.
So
Cyclone's pretty on.
You're rocking the au natural. I like it.
Nothing can be done about it, trust me, in this kind of weather.
Nice.
But you look gorgeous as well.
Thanks, babe. Well, today we are going to be talking about coaches burnout. I'm going to put a little positive spin on that. Because if you can't laugh, you cry, right? And I remember our very first episode, we were talking about, we had a 3-part series, didn't we, a couple of months ago?
Yes.
We were talking about exhaustion, how we were experiencing it, our own experiences of exhaustion, should I say. And both of us had actually mentioned in that podcast that neither of us had probably asked for help or knew who to go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Both.
Do you know now? Like, if you knew then what you knew now, do you have people to go to? I hope you.
You know what? I think I would. Sorry for talking over you there. I think I would recognise it in other people as well now. And so, yes, I guess I would know that I would have you to talk to, for example. And so I would have the feeling that I wasn't the only one in the world experiencing this, and that I wasn't unwell, like physically or mentally unwell. And so I knew I would know there was someone to speak to. But professionally, there's a lot more. It's a lot more open and accepted now, isn't it? So there are more people available to speak to. Yeah, for sure. Would you?
I think so. I had to pause there because I really wanted to think about the answer because I'm looking at somebody who I can rely on. I'm looking at somebody who has been around and we've cultivated our relationship, albeit, in amongst the pandemic, we've grown this podcast. Every time we have a conversation, we reveal and we are vulnerable with one another. We are. And we are silly with one another, but also that's what creates connections and bonds. And I feel like in those connections, because we've got the background of our strength and conditioning, it's not like any other friend that you can go to and they can understand. Like, I think that we have a different yet similar feel because of the fields and the industry we're in. We're able to then go, yeah, I get that. I had that too, right?
Yes, right. Absolutely right.
It's quite difficult to do when you're surrounded by men. Like, it's quite difficult to have. I know there's more and more female coaches now, but back then
Oh
It was
gosh,
quite.
back then we were, well, certainly at one place I was the only female on the whole staff, not just coaching staff, but the whole staff. So it was a very lonely job for me. And that's where I experienced the burnout, by the way. But I would have been making myself feel vulnerable, but beyond vulnerable. I would have been I would have been admitting to a weakness. That's how I would have felt, saying that to the other guys who were not to my knowledge experiencing that.
But then you didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, did you have this level of relationship, connection, bond, vulnerability with them to be honest about it?
With one of them, certainly, because he had been my boss twice before. And so, yes, there was a friendship and a colleague type relationship with it. But again, I think I would have felt that I was admitting to a weakness and maybe that I wasn't up to the job, where I really wanted to prove that I was up to the job.
And the thing is,
and I was.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, like, it's quite difficult. Like, even if you had that close bond and relationship,
yeah,
they're your boss. Yeah. So there has to be a line, there has to be a border where, like you said, you want to prove yourself, you want to come across as being capable, even though you are, but it's like, it's proving yourself, right? It's you against you, just going, yes, I'm capable. They're the ones who have hired you, but you're like still trying to like be feisty and punch your way through.
You're proving it to yourself. They probably didn't need this proof that I was trying to give over and over and over again. They're probably like, just chill out, girl, because you're doing a fine job. No one ever said I wasn't doing a good job. At any stage. That was me putting pressure on me.
Yeah, and we talked about this as well, isn't it?
We did, yes.
Pressure on ourselves, and that's the thing that brings about more anxiety.
Oh, holy moly, yeah.
Yeah.
It really does, because it's constant as well. It's not as though it's a throwaway comment by someone. It's you saying it to yourself and reverberating around in your head for 24 hours a day.
I was literally going to say that. If you have a tape playing over and over again, you're going to remember it, right? I was saying this to my dad the other day. I said, if you say to yourself, like, I am stupid, I am dumb, blah, 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 the I am is so freaking strong in your mentality that maybe not the first or second day, if you are told this by somebody else, for example, even if you don't believe it and you're told, you know, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're dumb, blah, blah, blah. The first or second day, you'll probably be like, oh, well, that's a bit crap, right? But then the 14th day, the 30th day, the 90th day, you're going to start believing that person. So it's almost like you're saying it to yourself, your inner self, and you're going to end up believing it. So let's just flip it on its head. But it's really, really hard. And I guess you and I both have experienced this. I for sure have, as when you're going through these moments of vulnerability, of insecurity, you know, and they carry on with you and the narration continues. So it's really, really hard to rewire your neurological pathway to say, okay, so now this is a new narrative. And that's going to take some time and constant habit formation, right? Until it becomes subconscious.
Is it not true that it's harder to rewire a habit than to acquire it in the first place?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that something you've heard? Hello, my research girl. There's something for you to look up. But I believe that once you acquire a habit, it's easier to acquire it in the first place, whether that be smoking, for example. It's harder to quit than it is to start. And that's probably a poor example because it's an addictive thing. But, you know, anything, think of anything that you started doing, it's harder to stop doing it than it was to start.
But you say it's an addictive habit. So let's take the example of smoking and now put another example of checking your phone first thing in the morning. Technically, research has found, now don't quote me on which research, but I have read that the phones have become addictive because the ping, the notification gives us a sense of reward. So physically, our brain, our body is responding to a reward because we're hearing a notification. Now, I have my phone on silent, so I make sure I don't have any notifications. So if you want to get in contact with me, you're going to have to try quite hard. Anyway, what I have noticed is when some people have formed this habit of having the phone up their bedside table, picking that up first thing in the morning, and then going through the scroll, that they've formed that habit, and that has then become addictive. So what you're saying is, yes, okay, smoking is addictive and it had been formed as a habit, but you still need to then go back into, okay, so maybe not charge my phone in my bedroom, maybe have the little bit of willpower and resilience, or do you replace it with something else? Like for me, I've replaced it with, I'm going to meditate before I check my phone. Even if I really want to check my phone, just meditate for a little bit, because whatever's waiting for you will still be there.
Do you meditate without any guidance? So I would use my phone as a guided meditation. Medication too. Yeah,
it
kind of works. But you can meditate without any guidance. Yeah.
No, I need music. I don't.
Music.
I'll flip between a guided meditation and just music. But I have my tablet. So even though I say I don't have my phone near me, or even if I have it near me, I won't check it. So it's easier if it's not near me, so I don't need to then reach out and pick it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get out of bed,
your tablet isn't connected to anything that will give you a message.
Well, yes, that's what I have. So my tablet is, I don't have my emails on it, and I have to double check that actually, because I remember watching and looking at an email just before bed. So when you go scrolling through, looking for your mindfulness, meditation, music, whatever it is, and I noticed an email, and that email right before bed just kind of threw me. And so I'm like, oh,
is your thing in there. I never got into the habit of answering emails or looking at emails before bed, but it is something that you mention often. So yeah, that's your
something that really throws me. I really kind of have to go back into, okay, what's my bedtime routine? So at that time when I had that email and it threw me, I went offline kind of in my head, and I wrote down what the answers were for that email. Because I was like, well, it's in my head, right? I can't just then go, oh, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I needed to go through a process for me. I even needed to reflect or answer the email in my head. Even if I don't answer them, I've worked through some agitation or anxiety that I had possibly felt with that email. And then that kind of settles me and grounds me. But it's definitely this tablet only has access to, say, YouTube or Spotify. So I know I can go on it and have no other, say, distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you get your meditation music from? Spotify or YouTube, or either of those, do you?
Yeah, I'm quite selective, and I've got my own playlist as well. It's not official. So I guess that you're giving me ideas that maybe I should get a playlist.
Yes, please share.
I will. I'll look into it. You've given me homework to do, so I've got research to look at, and I've got a meditation playlist.
Sorry.
Oh, brilliant. So, okay, so back to coaches, supporting coaches.
Yes.
I know we're going to get a guest on very soon, but I think that when we were talking about coaches supporting coaches, I actually wanted to step back a little bit away from that specific topic. And I wanted to ask, like, you've got your partner, you've got your husband, who basically it can be a confidant, can be a crutch to lean on. So at that time, so this is a two-part question I wanted to ask you. At that time, when you're going through anxiety and on the brink of burnout, were there warnings from your partner, or did you have that discussion? Like, did he kind of go, wait a second, there's something odd with you? Or did you go to him?
No, he didn't notice anything, or certainly not that he vocalized. I guess as parents, you just know the other one's tired. You just sort of step up without having that discussion, but maybe that discussion in hindsight would have brought a few other things forward. And what was the other part of the question? Did I say anything? No. I if anything, I would have said, I'm so tired. And I do remember saying that a lot. I was thinking that a lot, even if I didn't say it out loud. I think it just comes through as just overwhelming tiredness.
Yeah.
So, no, I didn't pick anything up in myself. Well, certainly I had glandular fever and that was diagnosed, but, there wasn't even a recovery protocol given to me for that. It was just like rest and recover. And you had to work and you had to parent. So those two things didn't come off the table. And maybe other things could have, but you still try to push on because you want to do everything, right? That FOMO. Even before FOMO was an acronym, I had it. I didn't want to miss out on anything, so I would still push on and do things, which didn't help my recovery at all. So in answer to your question, no, he didn't notice anything or say anything, and no, I didn't say anything. I didn't ask for help.
Because what I found was I think I'm a good actress and I can hide things quite well. But see, you're laughing. That's what I mean. My friends would then, even though it's not openly discussed, they noticed there was this change, or they would notice that something was off. And I guess that a lot of people who know me will see, and I've had this maybe on one or two occasions, particularly when they said you've lost your spark. And as soon as they said that, I was like, oh shit, like that's big for me.
Yeah, gotcha. Absolutely gotcha. You know what? My friends noticed it more than my husband did. Absolutely. And I think they noticed it. Well, mainly they're my gym friends as well that noticed it, because your performance in the gym, which was CrossFit at the time, and we were competing at regional level, which in CrossFit to me was quite high and hard. So we were training hard. We were training CrossFit level hard. But, so my performance declined. I couldn't. It really declined. Like it noticeably declined. And I was booked to do a film, an adventure series as well. And the first one we did, I couldn't do it. So an adventure series like obstacle course racing, and then we did another one which was it was a canoe race combined with a bike leg and a run, and it was something that I could have done and backed up the next day for another one, and I couldn't even get through one. Just exhausted. People thought they didn't think I was drunk, but I was acting. I was so tired, and lethargic. They went, what did you have last night? What did you drink last night? I'm like, if you know me, I don't drink anything much.
Yeah.
So, there was nothing. But, people noticed it because of that lack of a spark. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go out afterwards. I didn't want to do anything like that. And I would just drag myself through the rest of the day. But your friends noticed. And what do you mean by you lost your spark?
Well, before I get to that, actually, I wanted to go back to your story, because I found it really interesting, because you said you didn't want to be vulnerable within your work and your coaching arena, because at the beginning you were the only female around, so you felt quite isolated. But did you feel the same way when you were competing with the CrossFit friends? Like, I know you're competing with them, but also did you still feel that you couldn't be vulnerable with them?
No, I felt I could be vulnerable with them, actually. And at the same time, they really needed me to step up. We were part of a team. And so, you don't want to be taken out of that team. I didn't. So I might have said, I'm really tired. Worked really long. Ivy's not sleeping through the night or at all, and leave it at that, and not ask. I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for time off. I didn't ask for reduced training. I didn't ask for anything. I just went, I will just push on. And then, no one said to me I should stop.
Okay.
Until I just stopped.
Yeah, but then so now you talk about those boundaries, like reducing hours, putting yourself first, putting habits in place. Now, knowing what you know now, would you be able to be first vulnerable and speak your feelings and emotions, just to say, this is what I'm going through, and also ask for those things? Or is there just no need for you to do those or ask for those things?
Do you mean with work?
Yeah.
I have such a good work environment now. The work environment now with Paralympics is, there's a lot of psychology around it. And I think we all, even though we're not qualified, university qualified in it, you pick up on things. So you can see, when you're supposed to know, at least, when your athletes need that mental break. Yeah, and also a physical break, but that's way more obvious than a mental break, which is what comes first. So coaches seem to become a part of that. So if you're looking for your athlete to need a break, then the coach is also, taken care of in my workplace. But if I take your question back into a previous workplace, would I ask for the time or a break now? I think, being the age I am now and the experience I've had, yes, I would, because I know the ramifications of it, and it's not worth it.
And I think, just to add on to what you're saying as your answer, I know I would be pickier in the type of workplace or the type of environment that I put myself in. So it's almost like I wouldn't necessarily need to ask for that mental break or the physical break, because I would put in boundaries to say, I'm not willing to put myself in these conditions, these hours, this environment.
Yeah.
Unless it was conducive to my well-being too.
Yes, absolutely. Live and learn, don't we? But this is what we want for the people who get to listen to this, is to take our experience and turn it into your own, and take our, the little faults, not the faults, but, take the L's, the losses that we've, endured, and turn them into wins for themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And I know there's a lot of speak about strength and conditioning coaches pay. So if we can be upfront and honest about, wanting better pay, especially early on, and not working for free a lot of times. So we're vouching for the people who are coming through the ranks. I know it's almost, some people have this mentality of it's a rite of passage. We've done it, so you need to do it. But there are a few more on the collective now saying, well, actually, wouldn't it have made our lives a little bit better? Wouldn't it have helped us and our families and our growth in our career if we were supported financially in those early stages? So why not help, the new coaches financially in as much as we can? And I feel like with our experiences, especially with this podcast, it's exactly what you said, Cal. How can we impart our wisdom? I use metaphorical quotes here. But how do we impart our wisdom to say, what do you need for your health and well-being? Implement those strategies now. Create those boundaries and barriers. So yes, you do need to be out there. You do need to put yourself out there and take up opportunities. Sometimes it's difficult to say no, because you might have a fear of FOMO, or you're thinking, I'm just starting out, I need all of this experience. But there is time. There is time to do it. You will not be missed out, and your work will speak for itself. So you don't need to grind yourself to a point, to a wall where you're breaking it. But you can have that much more longevity in your career if you just take your time and be a little bit picky about your demands. I think that a lot of I think they call them Gen X, but a lot of Gen X generation, and this is outside of S&C, have looked at, and this is a bit of research where they said more individuals are going into companies saying, what can you do for me, rather than what can I do for you now? And that's very presumptuous, right? A young kid coming out of
brave,
right? Just saying, wait a second, I know you need me, so give me the reasons why I should have you as a company rather than the other way around. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Bravo. Yeah.
But
oh
it makes sense, because if we're being disposable, well, wait a second, the companies are vying for this intelligence, for this knowledge, for this experience. Okay, maybe not experience when you're first jumping out the box when you're uni, but definitely the knowledge, right? if you look at industries like F1, they have a complex, internship program where they actually hire kids within uni. So they're still in uni. So they'll take a year and, have them in their company, give them new ideas. And there's a reason for that, because you need all of that fresh energy, right? Fresh thought.
Yep. I have a 26-year-old cousin who that's Gen X, isn't it?
I think so. Guys, if you know, if you're listening and please comment.
Yeah, let us know if you're Gen X. She went for some job interviews not too long out of uni. She's a lawyer. So they actually do a lot of experience in work as part of their degree. So it wasn't her first job, so to speak, but it was one of the first interviews that she did. And she, like you said, interviewed the interviewer, and at the end she said, yeah, I don't think I'm the right fit for you. Like, go girl, because and she was dead right. She would have been the only person in the workplace who was the lawyer, and almost straight out of uni, that's not the kind of position you want either. But they didn't want to pay the kind of pay that they would have had to pay someone who had years of experience, who should have been doing that. But she recognised that she needed to be as part of a team so that she could learn and bounce off other people as well. And so when she found out that she would be the only person in this particular office doing the legal procedures, I think it's called, and documents, she went, yeah, I'm not the person that you're after.
I love that. And this we're hearing more and more stories. I think I saw something on Twitter the other day, whereas they weren't able to reveal the pay that they were offering, and they had gone through quite a series of interviews, but they said the first interview if you get to the interview stage, you should know what pay you're being given, right?
Yes.
I have that's foreign to me, because that hasn't happened to me. It's almost like when you get the job, then you're kind of told, oh yeah, this is the pay, okay? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
I can't negotiate now. Or not that I knew how to negotiate, but somebody on Twitter had said they didn't even tell me the pay on the interview, or when they did. I was like, no, like, just no, I'm not going for that. Because if they want you, they'll fight for it, right?
This is an S&C coach?
I'm not sure. I think it was outside of S&C. But I think that S&C coaches should do that. They should be able to ask what the pay grade is, rather than it being told. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of job applications don't advertise pay, which means you're going through the application. Sometimes you're going through interviews like I had, without knowledge of the pay, or you don't have any leg to negotiate. So it's almost like my need for experience trumped the pay. So for me, I'm like, well, whatever it is, I'll do it. It doesn't matter if I'm getting money, blah, 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 right? So I'm just like,
I get it.
I'm just a freaking pushover.
Yeah, same. But I also think there's a strategy behind that in that you feel, and the people who are interviewing you feel, that the more time you invest, more time you invest trying to get a job or interviewing for this role, and then they tell you the pay, and it's $5,000, $10,000 pounds less than you in your head wanted, and you go, oh man, I've just invested 3 weeks of time doing up my CV, traveling or talking or Zooming, I don't want to start doing that all over again. And so you go, oh, well, I'll accept that, right? So you've invested time. Yeah. And I feel like that's a strategy.
It's a report. Sometimes you're bringing a case study with you, and it's just like, it's a lot of time and effort, and then you're not being told what pay you've got. And I think that I know we veered off the subject of coaches burnout, but in terms of one of those things when it comes to burnout is you're not pushing yourself for roles that you're going to have to take another role to support your experience on this role. And that's what I had to do. I had to take multiple jobs. So, be a little bit more picky, maybe hold out for it, and also call out what your needs are so you don't get to the point of having to do a second job or a third job. And that's what we're here to say as well. It's not just a case of, yes, we want to lean on other coaches when we are experiencing those things, but how do we go back a couple of steps and just say, before you get to that point, you don't need to take up 3-4 jobs. You need to be a little bit more authoritative in what you're asking for and what your needs are, and then what are you willing to compromise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to know your non-negotiables so that you can go in there and go, all right, so I'm not going to get a car, but I am going to get something else. That was well, as long as you get your non-negotiables, and there should be 3 or 5 of those, right?
Yes.
Not 10, but as many of the desirables you can get, great, but as long as the non-negotiables don't budge, because then you start feeling like you're being taken advantage of, and pretty soon into the job. So as soon as you start feeling like that, your performance doesn't equate to what they want or what they expect or what you promised to deliver.
I completely agree, especially with that motivation, as you feel like it's right there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're being taken advantage of, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, your motivation kind of goes. And when your motivation goes, your work ethic kind of drops as well too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you raise a really good point there.
Yeah.
Josh, we were just talking about coaches burnout and also how to avoid getting to that point where you're at burnout. So just to give you a bit of context, Kelly and I were literally just talking about our experiences of burnout, obviously recapping what we talked about in episode 1 and some of our experiences, and whether neither of us could go to a specific coach or a person within the S&C world. We couldn't rely on anyone, but also I think we didn't really rely on our personal tribe either to kind of lean on. And I think both of us were a bit like, we need to keep going. We need to keep doing, because otherwise we're going to miss out, especially at the early stage of my career. I know I felt like I needed to prove myself for sure. And then we kind of tailed off some of our conversation into avoiding burnout, asking for things, even in a job interview, like things like pay or things like holidays. And rather than getting to the end of the interview where they say, yeah, you've got the job, oh, by the way, here's the pay, and you being extremely disappointed, it's saying, how do you be upfront about, some of your boundaries, some of your non-negotiables, so you don't reach the point where you're like, shit, this isn't going to pay me enough. I now need to find a second or a third job or a fourth job. And you're kind of, you're increasing your likelihood of anxiety and burnout because you're doing too much, right? So it's almost like letting early door coaches know, what do you need to support your well-being, and how can you help your health and well-being even if you don't have the support around you, which I know that a lot of people do now. And Josh, I just want you to kind of go through your experience as a coach. Like, where did you start from? Some of the industries that you've worked in, because I know I found it fascinating, but Kelly doesn't know. And then your experiences of burnout specifically.
Yeah, well, there's I agree with everything you just said. There's a lot to kind of unravel there. I could probably talk for hours about it. But there's a lot of that's largely, you kind of just summarized and described what I now do. So part of my time is spent coaching Formula 2 racing driver, hopefully going to get that signed off fairly soon. And I'll always want to keep my toe dipped in the coaching side of things, because that's fundamentally what I am. But I've also kind of set up a business where I'm kind of referring to myself. I've given myself the label or the tag of the practitioner wellness guy. For so many different reasons, but one of which is that no one else is doing it. The fact that we give so much of ourselves as performance practitioners, and it's not just us. This could be, this can be applied to any service or industry where you give a lot of yourself. Doctors, nurses, teachers, probably we all experience the same thing. So we're not unique in this, and we put others first. We have a lot of pain points in our industry. We have these huge supply and demand imbalances, some of which you touched on. The reason why we can't say a lot of the things that you just mentioned at interview is because they've got another 5 people who are willing to do it for peanuts. So we've got these imbalances with the pay, we've got the hours, we've got the expectations being out of line. And we all know these, and people are really vocal about them, and they moan and they bitch about it. But what nobody's really talking about is the impact of these things on our wellness, and what impact they have. But then absolutely what nobody's doing in our industry as performance practitioners is nobody is saying what can you do about it to get a military term is left of bang, so to get upstream of it. So left of bang, like if you imagine an explosion, like I don't know, if there's a firefight or something, or there's a gunfight or there's a explosion that comes off, what the military guys will do is they'll review that in what they call an after action review. And they will say what happened just before that took place. And then they will create standard operating procedures to ensure that either doesn't happen again, so they mitigate it, or they mitigate the severity of it, so they can reduce the escalation. There is a large element of this from the well-being side of things that has to happen from employers. So my fundamental goal is twofold, really. Number one is to help out individuals on a kind of one-by-one basis, and that will be through the journal that I've created and short courses, which will be coming in 2022. And the second thing is to try and look at it from an organizational standpoint and say, what is it that employers, bosses, and managers should be doing in order to support the well-being of their staff? So that's kind of where I am now. Where I've come from, the whole of this comes from a place of the industry has the ability to chew you up and spit you out. It also takes control and takes advantage of our good nature and the type of personalities that we probably are, which is giving, probably a little bit relentless, probably quite outcome focused and goal orientated. So what tends to happen is we just do what needs to be done because we think that's the right thing for the athletes. So we give, and then we get to this stage where we've got nothing left to give. So the burnout hits us, and when it hits hard. We don't see it coming. It's like the world's slowest train crash, but everyone else around you can see it apart from you. And you just sat there on the tracks, and other people were saying, oh, you might want to slow down a bit. You might want to take a day off. Like, do you really need to be working in the evening? Where's your social life? All these sorts of things. People are saying it. That's basically them saying, get off the tracks because this thing is moving towards you at like 2 miles an hour and it's getting closer and closer. So I don't actually know a practitioner who's got more than about 7, 8, 9, like 10 years in the game, let's say, who hasn't experienced burnout or something similar. So there is an absolute crying demand for people to be upskilled and educated as to how to avoid it. But here's the kicker, here's the caveat. If I said to young Josh, young Tosi, young Kelly, you're going to burn out, I'd have just stuck 2 fingers up and been like, yeah, right, whatever. That's not going to touch me. But it does. But that's our egos taking control. So we're battling against people's egos. We're battling against people not knowing. We're battling against, the older practitioners or the more experienced practitioners actually saying this is rife, this does happen, and this is what you can do about it. And this is how I'm going to support you to prevent this happening. So, yeah, I suppose that's my little opening gambit, if that answers some of your questions.
It does. And for sure, I think that you've raised so many good points in that. And I love where it's originated from, as you said, that it's almost like me and Kelly were talking about, it's a rite of passage that people have said, oh, well, we've gone through this and, this is just your turn to do voluntary internships and get paid nothing or have some of the hardships that some people have gone through. But I feel like it's definitely something that's needed. As you said, Josh, it's something that is missing from the market right now. So coaches supporting other coaches, because everybody has gone through it. As you so rightly said, you don't know anybody who hasn't gone through it. But I just want to kind of go back a little bit and ask about your own experiences. Our audience knows about Kelly and I's experiences of burnout, but can you just give us an example of, before the train crash actually happened, what was the trajectory? What were you doing? And give our listeners some insight to that.
Yeah, so I mean, left of bang, for me, I got into the industry quite late. I've always been fairly relentless in the pursuit of whatever it was I wanted to achieve. So that's kind of part of my nature, which should have some warning signs attached to it straight away. People like me are like surefire to get burnt out, because we will do things that others won't, and we will work harder and just keep pushing and pushing. I used to say there's not a problem I couldn't outwork, which is such a ridiculous thing to say. What I should phrase that is, I will work hard at a problem, and when I can't hit the solution, I will then go and find the person who can hit it, as opposed to just bang my head against a brick wall, which I used to do. So I started off personal training, and quite late into the game. I started S&C at 26. So I quit everything I was doing. I had a personal training business. I was earning decent cash. I was city centre, Manchester, in the UK, earning decent money, great client base. Everything was sound. And I quit everything to go and do an unpaid internship with EIS, as you do at 26. It took me 5 years to get out of debt. That I racked up during that time. I did my unpaid internship, and I kind of fell into a role, which was great. I then stuck with the EAS for about 3.5 years. From there, I jumped over to pro rugby, where I did about 3.5 seasons. And then I'll just keep jumping on. Then I went to India for a year, which was because of the burnout, and I lost my mojo for the industry for life. So I'll backtrack a second onto that section, why that came about. After the year in India, I then did 3.5 years in Romania with their special forces. That was with Exos. And then most recently moved over to France I'm not in France because of Hinsa, but I work for Hinsa with motorsport now. So if we go back to like where the bang took place, the bang was the burnout, and that took place when I was 31. So there's some real kind of eye-opening or sad things really that took place. And I look back, and I don't necessarily want to call it regret, but I look back and say, like, I will learn from that, because that was absolutely not okay. And I really want other people to not have these experiences. Between the ages of 26 and 31, I can't really remember anything positive happening in my life, in my social life. I can't really remember any, and that's not because great things weren't happening. It's just because I had moved past the point of being dedicated to an industry over the line to obsessed, to the extent where I would say no to a social gathering which wasn't in the town that I was living. So if I had to travel for it, I would say no, even if it was on a Friday night, because I wanted to be fresh for work on Monday. Yeah. And I would, I used to like going out and partying with my friends. I would not go out, and I would go out and go home at like 10:30, 11, not touch a drop of alcohol, because I wanted to be fresh for work in 2 days' time. So I'd really put what I was doing in the work on a pedestal. And needless to say, the work will always turn around and kick you in the pants at some point. I wrote an article recently about engineering your exit strategy from a job, because I don't know anyone who's not been shit canned. Shit canned meaning asked to reapply for your own job, been sacked, been not renewed, been any term that you want to choose for, not favoured anymore. So when I burnt out, it was a full-blown physical, emotional, mental thing, where I was putting so much time and effort and energy into trying to please one particular coach who I didn't see eye to eye with, which I now understand was a total communication breakdown and failure on my part, and a lack of adaptation early on. I totally see that. And he was a complete asshole. But what I learned and what actually transpired is, here's another one of the sad things that I did. I got so disillusioned with this industry that I loved, that and that job that I was doing, that I went and got a second job to try to keep my love for the industry. Really normal behavior, that, Josh. So, like,
we're laughing because it's true for us too, right?
It's stupid, isn't it? Like, you look back and you think, why do we put so much time and affection and care into something that's going to kick us in the pants, and we know it's going to happen?
It's cutthroat.
It's stupid, and I use this example, and it's not. I use the example of, like, it's like having an affair. I've never had an affair, and I never will. But when you talk about an industry, like, it's like you love two people, but you know that one's going to screw you over. You know it's not good for you. You know it's not healthy. You know it's going to get you, but you still keep going back, and you still keep doing it over and over and over. And you've got the other one on the other side saying, please stop. Like, this isn't right. Like, where are your priorities? Like, what is the most important thing to you? And then, but you're still there, like, looking over your shoulder at the other thing. It's just ridiculous. And I really, really like the coaches and the people who can turn around and say, this is just a job. Like, I'm a adult PE. I teach adult PE. I'm the same as, a dustman on the street. I'm nothing more than just a job. I just happen to enjoy it, and for some people it has meaning. It's really quite intense. But it got to the stage where I was bringing everything home. I was all over the place in terms of some of the feelings and how it manifested itself. I would just get lost in. I had this total lack of presence anywhere, at both at work, because I was so fixated on trying to improve and be better just for this coach, really. And when I was at home, I brought all of that with me, and I was dumping that off on the people around. I'd pushed aside or cast away large amounts of my friends and family because they weren't understanding the drive that I had, or they weren't, like, on that journey with me. But it came to a point where I remember sitting on a beach one day in the off season, where I just said to the person I was with at the time, I don't want my life to be like this anymore. And I was desperately trying to get out of that job. I had 6 interviews the time I was in that job, and I fluffed every single one because I was putting myself across as the wrong person. It wasn't because I wasn't right for the job. I might have been, but I couldn't articulate myself in a way that was positive enough. I was always looking at what I was doing from a really negative standpoint. And that obviously would come across in the interviews, because you can read people's energy and all the rest of it, and body language. So I sat on this beach and I said to the person I was with, I don't want my life to be like this anymore. It's not life. It's not living. It's not what I signed up for. And at that particular point, I think she said to me, what is it you want to do then? I said, I've always wanted to work abroad, and I really want to do it. And I was 31 at that point. And within 2 weeks of saying that, I had 3 job interviews abroad. And then a week after that, I had 3 job offers. And then 2 weeks after that, I was on a plane to India. So needless to say, I chose the most wacky, random, probably the furthest away, most far removed, biggest challenge, lowest pay. I chose the most crazy job I possibly could out of the whole lot, which is a little bit how I designed. Sorry?
What sport was it with?
So it was with a company called JSW, who have just started up a big institution of sport called Inspire Institute of Sport. So they're just kind of picking up the pace now, but basically it was a new startup, and it was so mixed sports. I originally went over and worked with a couple of wrestlers, and also with the professional football team that the guy owned, like silly rich guy.
Yes.
And I also worked as the head of the boxing program for a few months. So, but that whole experience, so that was what happened, like, leading up. And then being in India, it was like that. I got my mojo back for the industry, for life. And it was the best thing I ever did, like literally the best. And the second best thing I ever did was leaving. So. Yeah.
And so even though you kind of tipped your whole world upside down at that point, were there any processes that you put in place or habits that prevented you from going back, or did the whole world change kind of do that all for you?
I wasn't really living when I was in the UK. I wasn't living full stop. It wasn't life. That's not life. And I have I don't know what the French word is, like joie de vivre or something like that. Yeah. So that's what I have. Like fundamentally, it's like in me. I have to live and do weird and wacky and wonderful things. That's just part of me and who I am. And I wasn't doing that in the UK. So almost I somehow managed to. I don't know where it came from, but I managed to get the strength to actually leave I ran away. Let's call it what it is. I straight up ran away. But I had the guts to be able to run away. And then when I left for India, when I got there, I was like, hang on a minute, this is me. This country might not be the perfect place for me, but this type of thing is me. And then fast forward on that journey, I think I'm 6 years down the line now, and I've probably only been back to the UK about 3 or 4 times. So this is, it's not a chase or a pursuit of something continually weird and wacky. It's just, what do I say to someone recently? I'm the captain of my ship, and I'm going to kind of steer it in the direction that I want. And I firmly or fundamentally believe that you can take control of your career path, and you can build the career and the life and lifestyle that you want. But you just have to put like things in place to be able to do that. And you have to really tune in to your vision, your personal vision, your values, and I don't know, kind of drive those home and bring them out on a day-to-day basis in your decision making.
Absolutely. And we've been over this in previous podcasts, Toss. You have to know those values or learn those values or discover those values and discover what you want before you go searching for it, right, Josh? No? You just go to India? Yeah?
Yes and no.
We're just going to India.
Sometimes you don't know. You just know that what you're doing isn't right, but you don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
You might say, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I know that being there isn't the right thing. So,
yes,
I'm
a big believer in that too.
And that's a little
you don't know what's right, but you know what is wrong.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't decide, so you sit still, and that's the career procrastination thing. And this is quite interesting because this is all of these things that I'm talking about. Myself and different collaborators with the company that I have called Career Blueprint, we're putting out materials about these things, these exact things that we're talking about, because they don't exist. They don't exist to help an individual who is 1 year in the game or 10 years in the game to make a decision on what they should do in their career. So the fear, the stress, the anxiety, the lack of clarity, the lack of confidence in your career decision making is really hard to come by. So we've created a career decision making framework, a model which will help you to align this with your values, help you to understand the types of thinking that take place with these big decisions, and to actually make decisions that you're confident and proud of in 3, 5, 10 years time. And the other thing that we do is related to career periodization. So it's understanding the stages and phases of your life and your career. What any of us on this call 3, 5, 10 years ago, we wouldn't probably know that we're going to be where we are right now. But our phases of our life change. But you ask, so I broke it down into like different categories. You've got like a breaker, who's the person who's trying to get into the industry. Then you've got a survivor, you're just literally trying to climb that slippery ladder. You've got a thriver, who's someone who's like finally really grasping hold of the industry. Maybe they're beginning to become a manager. And then you've got the redefiners. They're the people that are just like, I'm done with this. Like I'm forging my own path. The problem with this is that a breaker doesn't really understand how a thriver and a redefiner thinks. And then you've got the thriver and the redefiner now creating courses and content for the guys at this end, or employing them, and they don't really understand what they're all about. So what I'm trying to do is create an understanding across the board that at this stage in your life or your journey, this is how you might think. But in 3, 5, 10 years time at your different phase, you might actually be thinking a little bit different. So what you can do is create opportunities for yourself to take the blinkers off and to really design a pathway that you're going to be happy with. And the only way you can do that, whether you know what you want to do in 10 years time, like head of S&C for Man United, or you don't know what you want to do, but you know you want to be coaching people in some format, is start to make decisions in line with values and a vision. A vision being, I want to manage people at some point. A vision being, I'd like to work abroad. I'd like to earn my own age for the X amount of, for most of my life. If I'm 48, I want to earn 48K, this sort of thing. So if you can combine your personal values with some sort of vision, then you've got your bumpers at the bowling alley, so that when you get to your decisions, it's just pinging you back in the right direction. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And I think it's important, like I said, because no one else is doing it, but because there isn't really any guidance as to how to navigate these things. We talk about, I think you guys have mentioned avoiding burnout. Well, you avoid burnout by understanding yourself, by understanding who you are and what it is you actually want to do. Because if you're involved in something that you really, really, really want to do, then you'll almost like kind of naturally avoid it in a large respect, because, well, firstly, you're passionate about it, so it doesn't feel like work. Secondly, you probably got a lot more positive feelings towards it and about it. And thirdly, you seem to be able to keep a little bit more control as to when to switch it on and off. So if you're involved in something that you don't want to do, that's when the negative feelings creep up, and that really slow train crash starts to move that little bit quicker, in my opinion, anyway.
No, I agree. Absolutely. And I love the breaker, survivor, thriver, redefiner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. What are you, Tulsa, right now?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Did you? How did you know?
I thought thriver, and then as soon as he said redefiner, I was like, I'm redefiner.
Same. I went, yes, I'm thriving. And then he said redefiner. I'm like, totally.
I love it. You?
I'm a redefiner.
Yeah.
It's I have been through each stage, and then when I land back in a new field, like I landed in motorsport this year, there's elements of me that's a breaker again, but I've got the knowledge to rapidly jump through those hoops and those stages, and I know to ask the right questions and what it is I need to upskill on. And that largely comes down to self-awareness, which unfortunately is yet another thing that's not really taught to the youngsters these days, shall we say. But I mean, I sound like an old fart, don't I, on my soapbox about what the youngsters need to do. But I mean, some of these skills, they're so important: networking, communication, self-awareness. If there was universities jumping onto this, the employability of people and sustainability, the health, the well-being of our industry would shoot through the roof. The problem is, it's probably not financially worth their while to bring in somebody to deliver this sort of stuff. And that's the feedback that I get about this all the time. So.
Oh, I'm surprised. But you know what? The younger generation are all about hacks. They really are. So if you're supplying the hacks to get through a period faster, they will listen.
Yeah,
Someone who has kids, they will listen to the hack or the cheat code. You've got the cheat code. Yeah.
I think there are cheat codes for your career. There's also a cheat code to how to be able to play the game for longer. There's also, I was having a conversation with a coach called Chris Toombs, and he was saying he did a survey. And I think he had, God knows how many he had hundreds of coaches, I think. And there was only one guy who was actually still face-to-face coaching at like over 55. So it's a young man's game, and there's a shelf life for people like us. Like as coaches, there's a shelf life for this like coal face thing that people talk about. So what is it you're going to do? You don't want to get to 30 or 40 and then think, well, I don't know how much longer I want to do this. You want to be able to set yourself up with those skills right from the beginning. And you can do that if you're able to periodize that and actually have an awareness of what it is you need to be able to do. So
And I love the fact that when it comes to, because with a Redefine a Gang, it's the sports or the individuals that you do want to coach one-to-one are very selective. So, you know, Josh, you're talking about F2 drivers. I'm coaching karters or, you know, downhill mountain bike riders. And Cal, you're with the athletes, Paralympic athletes. So it's almost like, well, you don't mind coaching those one-to-ones, but it's very specific on what you want to do. The rest of it, it's fluffed up by other things, right? You're either managing or you're doing some other things, or you're focusing on a different project, or like me and Kelly, you're doing this podcast. It's how can you find the joy in what you're doing? And then, as you said earlier, Josh, it's not consuming your whole life. Like there's more to life than a job.
Yeah, and
It
all
should
of
always be.
yeah, this is one of the. I don't say these things as a pitch. I say these things because because no one's doing anything about it. No one's actually addressing the how of these things that we talk about. So that is what I do. And one of the courses and the education pieces that myself and a coach called John Noonan, I'm not sure if you have come across John before, but essentially we are creating a model. We have created a model called the Triple F model: family, fulfillment, and finance. And that's for people to understand that there are multiple different areas of your life, and you need to be able to make a decision in line with those, so that you know full well that it is going to be able to be sustainable for you from a financial perspective. Of course, it has to pay you what you feel you're worth, and there has to be some room for progression. Fulfillment, exactly what you were just saying. You have to enjoy it, get what you need out of it from a project, environment, and people perspective. And it has to be right for your family. Right? When we get to our age, or we get to a little bit further down the line, we don't want to up our family and pull them out of school and pull the kids out of school and take them off to a new location just for another $5,000. We don't want to do that. So that's why we forge our own paths, because we want a bit more stability, or we want more control over our pathway. But equally, nobody is teaching the 21, 22, 23-year-olds how to create their own business and map out a future and a pathway for themselves, so that when they do eventually get shit canned, they've at least got something to support them. So
I love the program. I love the idea of it. And it's fantastic that you and John are both taking the initiative to be proactive about it. As you said, you know, nobody's actually doing it, but that's not the point. It's how can you support other coaches, because you don't want them to go through your struggles. But then how do people get in contact with you? Is there a specific website, or how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I've got there's multiple different avenues that I'm using, but the biggest, the hub for me is the practitioner wellbeing. So it's Performance Practitioner Wellbeing Facebook community, which is where we started chatting. So I set up this group, and honestly, it's just gone absolutely mental. So there's over 600 in like 4 months or something that have joined up. And the community is all about a place which is actually going to escalate quite a lot in 2022 in terms of information being put out there. It's all about sharing knowledge, sharing information without judgment, which is going to support practitioners and coaches to take control of their happiness, health, and wealth. And wealth being financial and non-financial, of course. So this place is, there are I call them digests, 10-minute video clips that are coming out on almost a weekly basis from different practitioners from all around the world who have thoughts and opinions on areas of well-being. And essentially, it's a location which is focused on solutions. It's not just here's a solution, but here is a solution and how to implement it. So it's going to really start to escalate in 2022, and had some really great feedback. Normally, something like that is going okay when the numbers stay the same or go up. When you see the numbers here and then they start dropping off, that's when you realize that your content isn't quite hitting home. So it's a mix between video clips, sharing from other people, articles from me, articles from other people. So that's the main location. So the Facebook community, I can send these links over. From other social media, Twitter would be at Coach Blueprint 1. Instagram would be Career Blueprint. And the company that I've got is Career Blueprint, yourcareer-blueprint.com. So tons of different avenues. I'm absolutely useless on social media, but I'm trying to get better. But it's like learning, like all this marketing and social media stuff. It's like learning a master's with no lecturer. It's bloody impossible.
Time consuming. Yeah.
It's time consuming, and I'd much rather speak to somebody face to face. But it's the world we live in, isn't it? So.
For sure. And you'll be able to expand your audiences worldwide, as you said, when you're country hopping, people need that support too. So, Josh, it's been such a pleasure to speak to you. And thank you so much for your time and your honesty about what you've been through. And also this new project, this new venture. I'm really, really excited to continue to watch this grow and thrive.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Lovely to meet you, Josh.
Thank you, both of you too. Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon. I love his program. I really, really like the fact that, him and Josh and John are definitely putting themselves out there and just supporting new and current coaches. It's not a case of, look at what we've been through, try and avoid it, but it's almost like bringing the experts in who are probably already struggling. They've got families, they've got young kids, and they've got high pressured roles, and they may not necessarily, again, lean on their own staff because they're heading up their department. And that's what I do with Elevate Success Leadership Formula.
I know.
Sometimes you find it really difficult because you're the only female in that organization and you don't really want to talk to other females about it. You feel like you're on your own, but then who do you go to? Who do you need? You need a coach to support you. Just like we're in the gym, I would need a coach to coach me because I'm not proficient in everything, right? I can't just ask anybody, does this look okay? Because they don't know what they're looking for. So coaches need coaches too. I think that's the message of this whole podcast.
Oh, have you heard this saying? The coach who doesn't have a coach has an idiot for a client. Think about it. You got it? Isn't it true?
I love that. That's hilarious.
But it's true. And yeah, absolutely, we need coaches in various aspects of our life, not just a physical performance coach or a physical PT. What's that stand for? Personal trainer. Personal trainer. Acronyms just swimming around in my head.
I remember when I first got into S&C and I'm like, acronym this, acronym that. I'm like, what?
I know. And plus in America, PT is physical therapist, which in Australia we call a physiotherapist. And a PT is a personal trainer. Such a mix-up.
Well, if we're hitting a worldwide audience, personal trainer is a PT in the UK and in Australia. Right. And then, physical therapist is a PT acronym for America. So there's various ways that people end up their own profession.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure someone in America will be listening. So that wasn't.
But I definitely think that as coaches, we do. It's not a case of we are supporting the physical, the mental, the emotional health of our athletes. It's how are we doing that? And I know that even in my last role, it was a case of I want to epitomize it so I can be the example. It's like a parent, right? Your kids aren't going to listen to you, but they are going to follow what you do and your actions.
Absolutely. So, you need to be that role model.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the same for athletes too. Athletes will judge, will notice if you're not doing it too, and they will pick you up on that. So it's a case of, what are your values? What do you stand for? And are you living by those things, or are you cheating yourself? Are you self-sabotaging yourself because you don't feel like you're worthy of those things, but you genuinely are?
It's such a catch-22, isn't it? You've got to role model worthiness, and it might not be how you actually feel about it when you consult your own feelings.
But that's where the friction starts, right? You don't feel worthy, but you need to showcase it. It's like when I pretended that I was fine and my friends thought I wasn't. And it's just like, you're just you're just rubbing two rocks together, and what's the point of it, right? You're just creating that friction for no reason.
Yeah. So when your friends thought that you weren't, were you denying it to them and to yourself? Or were you just going, yes, you're right?
Yeah, I thought I was doing a really good job
Yeah.
hiding it. And then all of a sudden they noticed, and I felt like I think the first instance was, oh, I guess I'm not hiding it as well as I thought. But it's also, as Josh said, energy doesn't lie. You know, when you walk into a room and you can sense somebody just happy and glowing, or you can sense that somebody's had a really shit day, the whole energy comes down, or there's
Oh, yeah.
like you said with your friends, like they had an argument as a couple and you can just sense the tension,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's like energy doesn't lie. You don't need to sometimes express. Communication helps, don't get me wrong, in various ways, but energy comes across even before you enter the room. So it's almost like your friends know you the most. And sometimes I think that it's often more difficult to say to your friends, I'm struggling, because
Yeah.
they know you so well, and it's almost like they know even before you admit it. It's just you need to admit it to yourself, and you're not ready to admit it at that point. You're not ready to face what you need to face, because you know if you tell your friends, they're gonna be honest with you, but you're not ready to hear that.
Do you think there's also partly that we don't want to burden people with it? So once you admit it, or once you tell them they're right, you've burdened them with the information and with the fixing of it.
I used to do that a lot, to be fair. I, with one of my friends in particular, it just wasn't the right time to tell her good news, or it wasn't the right time to burden her
Yeah.
with things that she's already going on top of. And she used to say to me, whenever I voiced this later on in our friendship, she used to say
Yeah.
to me, I'll always make room for you. And it's not the burden that I'm worried about, it's the relationship that I'm there's always going to be space for you. And I felt like that was really sweet of her to say, doesn't matter what shit I'm going through, there'll always be space because it's you. And that
Yeah.
really, like, as a relationship, any relationship, is something can create space for you no matter what shit they're going through. That's so valuable. So,
Gosh, yes.
right. And it's just like actually acknowledging that. I used to do it a lot. I used to just go, oh, you know, it's not the right time, or it's not appropriate. Read the room, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
if somebody's going through a hard time, you don't want to then rub it in their face.
Yes. Burden them with your happiness,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
the
Burden them with
reverse.
happiness. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that it depends upon the relationship. Again, it just depends upon, you know, what they're feeling and also your interaction with them. So even if you feel you don't want to burden them with it, have that
Yeah.
conversation with them. You know, maybe
Yeah.
it's not a burden to them. Your vision of a
I know.
burden may be something different to them.
Oh, absolutely right. And I don't think I've ever had a friend or relative tell me something happy and me not be happy for them.
Right? It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you're going through. I remember
Yeah.
somebody telling me something, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm so freaking happy for you, because it's like,
Yeah.
I may not be where I am, but you know what? You are freaking striving, and good for you, right?
Yes. Yes.
But when
Yeah.
you get that
So,
point where you are, I'd call them low vibration, like when you're in the
yes.
jealous, hatred, guilt,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
looked at this today. How funny. Yes.
it's just when you're in
Yes.
those low vibrations, you're not going to be willing to be happy for others, but you need to be good in your place. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you are in your place, because things are ever changing, things are ever flowing, right? So you're going to come across obstacles at different times than other people. It's your journey is your journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So whatever you're going through, burnout wise, whether you're at the beginning of your coaching career, whether you're a veteran and you've got loads of experience, you know, we've provided, hopefully, guys, we've provided lots of different tools for you to seek help, you know, seek support to coaches that you can create a bond and a relationship with, so you
Yeah.
don't feel alone, but also you get the relevant guidance to support you on your journey. So whether it's, you know, speaking to your friend or speaking to the coaching team, whether it's, you know, going to another resource like Josh and their program that they've got going on, it's find something that works for you, and figure out what your values are and where you would like to take your journey, because you are
Yeah.
captain of your own ship.
As he said, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, it reminded me of the one of our season 1 interviews with the coach, the British coach who was with the super yachts in New Zealand at the time with the America's Cup. And he was the captain of his own ship.
Yeah.
And overachieving, in my opinion. Like, he had the best job.
Yeah. Right.
Far out. But he was a huge motivator to see that it could be done, you know?
And I think that sometimes it's having a person that sometimes you put on a pedestal to say, like, wow, you've achieved so much. But then saying, I'm still capable of doing that too. It's not putting them on a pedestal to say that's so far out of reach for me. It's actually saying that's the example that I can go to. And Ben is such a warm and wonderful guy. He's very knowledgeable and intelligent in his own right, but also, you know, he's had different experiences that has led him to that role, right? So it's similar to what Josh said, is the decisions you make will get you to the next 5 to 10 years. Also, what decisions are you making right now, and where do you want to be? So
where do you want to be? Yeah.
Strategic decisions to get him to the Ineos role. So it's almost like, well, wait a second, what decisions are we making? Because if you're not knowing where you're going, where you're going to dock next, well, it just becomes futile. And again, you're dealing with the anxiety and friction of the unknown. Whereas if you know where you're heading, it doesn't matter what storms you come across.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Every decision you make will take you closer to where you know you want to be. And it doesn't need to be a definite, like Josh mentioned, the head coach of Manchester United. That's pretty specific.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that specific.
No, it can be
at that level. It can be in that sport. It can be around that pay grade.
Yeah.
You know, non-specific and yet specific enough that you can make decisions to get you to that take you closer to that point.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, you know me, my 5 to 10 year plans, I ended up achieving the goals that I've written down specifically. And then I realized that there's more than that. And when you reach the plan, that's not where happiness and satisfaction lies, because you're still trying to chase the next experience or the next venture, right? So it's almost like, you've reached that point, but sometimes you don't realize how far you can actually go when that's just the brink of the vastness.
Absolutely.
And life. But so hopefully guys, you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much to our wonderful guest talking to us about their new venture. Obviously, coaches supporting coaches, so important. And if you like this podcast, please do subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this and you're seeing us waving to you, please hit subscribe and click the like button. Share with your other coaches or people who may find this podcast relevant. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much for being here. And if you all want to support us a little bit more so we can continue doing what we love and giving you the content that we love, please do hit us up on Patreon, and that's where you can support us and our new ventures. So Cal, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.